All right, so I didn't really have an opening this morning. I'm not an opener. I just bell into stuff. That's the way I've done all my life. But just kind of correct something that was said this morning. The fish fry at the Refuge is not today. It's not today. It's next week, August 2nd. Same details, just different day. All right, so a lot of my guys back there were. Calm down, calm down. So, the thing that I've learned with my walk. So you got to forgive me real quick. Usually, whenever the Spirit works through me, when I'm filled with the Spirit, I'm like TK. I get all emotional. All right, so. There's going to be some times in this where I do get emotional because I'm going to be sharing some things that are hard to talk about. But this is what relationships are all about, is being vulnerable. Being vulnerable with people that need that vulnerability. Because we are taught as Americans that we should stand up straight, put our boots on, and just handle it and have no feelings. And social media these days are telling us the exact same thing, you know, with a little bit of confusion. And the little bit of confusion that it gives us is that in order to have a relationship with somebody, that you need to just stay the way you are. If they don't accept you for you, then they don't need to be your friend. They don't need to be in your life. And we're going to find out through this little walk that that's not what Jesus says. Whoa, calm down. We're getting there. Thanks, Jason. I appreciate that. So he does this. If I do a meeting at the Refuge and Jason is there, he always just gets me. And I'm like, hold on, we're getting there. So I'm going to start at John 21:5, and it says, "So Jesus said to them, 'Children, do you have any fish to eat? Do you?' And they answered, 'No.' And he said to them, 'Cast the net on the right side of the boat, and you will find the fish.' So they cast it, and then they were not able to haul it in because of the great quantity of fish. And therefore the disciples, whom Jesus loved, said to Peter, 'It is the Lord.' So when Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he put on his outer garments, for he was stripped for work, and threw himself into the sea. But the other disciples came in a little boat, and they were not far from the land, but about 200 cubits away, dragging the net full of fish. So when they got out on the land, they saw a charcoal fire already made and fish placed on it. And Jesus said to them, 'Bring some of the fish which you have now caught.' So Simon Peter went up and hauled the net to land, full of large fish, 153. And although there were so many, the nets were not torn. And Jesus said to them, 'Come and have breakfast.' None of the disciples ventured to inquire, 'Who are you?' knowing it was the Lord. So Jesus came and took the bread and gave it to them, and the fish likewise. This is now the third time that Jesus revealed himself to the disciples, after he was raised from the dead. Now they had finished breakfast, and Jesus said to Simon Peter, 'Simon, son of John, do you love me? Do you love me more than these?' And he said, 'Yes.' And he said to him, 'Yes, Lord, you know I love you.' And he said to him, 'Tend to my lambs.' He said to him again the second time, 'Simon, son of John, do you love me?' And he said to him, 'Yes, Lord, you know that I love you.' And he said to him, 'Shepherd my sheep.' He said to him the third time, 'Simon, son of John, do you love me?' And Peter heard because he knew he knew the third time, do you love me? And he said, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. And Jesus said to him, tend to my sheep. To me, hearing that hits really, really hard. All right? And most of y'all don't know, some of y'all do know firsthand that I can put myself into Peter's situation. I can put myself in that moment. All right? Now we're going to let that rest a little bit. So here's an anonymous quote. Some of y'all may know it, some of y'all may not. It says, relationships can be a terrible, painful area. We tend to fantasize and project what will happen. We get angry, resentful when our fantasies are not fulfilled. So, with that being said, relationships tend to hit every aspect of our life, and they start at the very beginning of our life. And sometimes we take those relationships for granted. Sometimes we just become a little blasé. And I think if you grow up in the church or you do not grow up in the church, it can have the same effect when somebody talks about Jesus. We get a little blasé about Jesus sometimes. You know, when we read a scripture or we hear the most famous one, John 3:16, we're like, yeah, I know what Jesus did, yeah, I know all that. And we forget the true meaning behind that. We forget how hard it's supposed to hit because now we made Jesus one of us. Real blasé. And I wasn't going to take it this way, but it seems like it's kind of leaning that way. I was told very early in my recovery that if my relationships are a mess, then my relationship with Jesus is a mess. And that hits very true because I've noticed in my life whenever I'm in this book or I'm in a couple other books that I'm being one with God. I'm being one with Jesus. And everything around me seems a little better. Seems a little better. You know, I told somebody this morning. I told my guys this at the Refuge. My life gets a lot better when I don't meddle in my own stuff. When I start playing God and wanting my way. All right? So at the beginning of Jesus' life, before he was even out of the womb, he became really connected with his cousin, John the Baptist. They got together in their mother's wombs, and there was a reaction happening. There was some kicking, there's some playing, there's some conversation. So right at the beginning, he's building a bond with his cousin, the guy that's going to lay out the line for his message, get it started. And we find out a little bit later that when Jesus started his mission, his cousin started it up, laid out the line, and he got baptized by his cousin. All right? And John the Baptist tells, I'm going to do a lot of paraphrasing here, all right? But John the Baptist tells him, look, I'm not even worthy to do this. You should be doing this for me. And he says, no, this needs to happen the way it's happening. And so he baptizes Jesus. Even though Jesus didn't need to be baptized, he's the Son of God, he's showing people around him, I'm doing what y'all do, and this is my public proclamation, my public statement saying I need y'all's help. I believe that's what we do here when people get baptized. Whenever I got baptized on the down low, which I shouldn't have never done, but there was people in my life that are going to hold me accountable. Brent was there. A couple other people were there. I think Melanie was there. And these people are still in my life. Some of them are not, but most of them are, that they're holding me accountable. All right? And Jesus knew once he got baptized, just like you should know when you get baptized, it's go time. It's go time. And a lot of people think that when you get baptized, you've got this bullseye on your back. And normally you do have a bullseye on your back if you're not discipled. If you're not disciple and you just run into the water, you're going to fail. Because what happens with life? Life, heartaches. Getting baptized doesn't mean that you're running into the water and your problems go away. And that's what we believe about recovery also. A lot of people believe this at the Refuge. If I just go to the Refuge and I sit in a meeting and I hear that foul-mouthed kid up there trying to tell me how to live my life, then I'm going to be better. And we never face the problems. We never face the issues. All right? And then we go a little bit further, as we try to build a relationship. And Jesus sets a great outline for us in Matthew 5, 6, and 7. That's what discipleship is. But we have to have somebody in our life to guide us through those chapters of Matthew 5, 6, and 7. That's what the Refuge really stands on, is discipleship. A lot of people get up here and they say, my name is, and I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. And we're like, man, that's an impact. Because just that statement alone puts a bullseye on my back. Because now, when I say that my name is Kendal and I'm a believer in Jesus Christ, everybody's expectations of me just went through the roof. They just went through the roof because we have an outline. We have what Grandma told us or Mom told us how we should act, and we never get in the book. We just go off assumptions, and it breaks so many relationships. But here's another thing. Here's something I can hit you with to put me back on the floor with y'all. My name is Kendal, and I'm an alcoholic. And most people say, "Dang, Ken, don't say that about yourself." And I say, "Why not?" Because that's negative. No, it's not. Not to me. Not to me. The Lord of my understanding, Jesus Christ, has gave me that burden on the outside so I can meet you where you need to be at. Because my sins are on the outside. You know what drug addicts do. You know what alcoholics do. And there's somebody in this congregation that can do what an alcoholic does and does what a drug addict can do sober. We have this moral compass about us. And my affliction, my negative attribute, is supposed to help somebody else in this congregation. It's supposed to help people out of that. The 12th step of Alcoholics Anonymous tells us that I must work with you in order for me to stay sober. Jesus Christ says I must build up a community of people that need a physician in order to get to heaven. And that's what I try to explain to my guys is what you think about what church is isn't what church is. You're going to a building of people that are publicly saying, I am sick. They're sick just like you. They're sick just like me. And we're all here saying, I need a community to get this going. And then you'll have somebody come up and say something weird like, if somebody slaps you on the cheek, you give them the other one. And you don't really know what that means. I didn't know what that meant. But that means that that's how quick we're supposed to forgive somebody. That's how quick we're supposed to forget them. I'm supposed to forget it that fast. Or forgive them that fast. Because forgiving is not forgetting. All right? And I wish I had a better example of this, but I don't. I tried to think of one and I couldn't. But here's the thing, all right? Let's say you're out there in the cut and you're buying drugs, all right? And you go to your homeboy and he's a drug addict just like you're a drug addict, and you give him your money to go get you drugs. And he burns you. All right? Your first instinct is, I can't believe he did that to a homeboy. And you're like, well, we're both doing the same thing, so yeah, I kind of believe it. I know it, I kind of believe it. But next time I go get drugs, I'm not giving my money to him. I'm going to go to somebody else. That's what forgiveness is. You forgive them that they burned you, but you don't forget who they are. That's why you go to somebody else. Forgive and forget is not in the same realm. That's my little example of forgiving somebody, but not forgetting who they are. We use that passage as thinking that God and Jesus want us to be doormats, and that's not the case. We're not supposed to be doormats. We're made in God's image. We're made in His image. And if you know anything about Wild at Heart, it tells you in there that God made us warriors. God made us warriors in His own image. He can do all things. And that doesn't mean that we have to be doormats. We surround ourselves with like-minded people. I have built relationships in this church that no way on earth I could have done myself. You know, I don't really tell him this, but for the longest time, I didn't like T.K. Baker. Didn't like him. First 2 years, didn't like him. First 3 years, didn't like him. And then one day I had a conversation with TK. It was about nothing. It's about nothing. It wasn't even about the Word. It wasn't about the refuge. We were just talking. And then I figured it out when TK scampered off. You know how he does it. He scampers off. After TK scampered off, I thought to myself, now I know why I don't like TK. He's just like me. He's just like me. And that's what we get is somebody's character defects or somebody's flaws or somebody's uncomfortability gets in the way of the relationship. Because TK is just being TK and I'm already uncomfortable. It has nothing to do with TK. It has something to do with me. You know? I know that I'm not for everybody. I wish I could be. I want to be liked. I want to be friends with everybody. I want to be able to glad hand like Brent does, but I can't. I can't. The reason why I can't is because I'm so uncomfortable and I'm so judgmental. I'm so prideful and I don't really like who I am. But that has nothing to do with any of y'all, does it? That has something to do with me. So as I walk on with all this, I hear some stories. I hear some stories that, you know, they seem a little blasé, and I don't get them right at first. And you know, it's the story of the paralytic. This thing feels like it's falling off. Is the paralytic, the guy that's paralyzed, and his homeboys know that Jesus is in town. Everybody's in town. It says that people came from all over, even the teachers came from all over just to hear him speak. And the room was crowded, and his homeboys heard that Jesus was there, and they had faith enough to take their homeboy to Jesus. And so, as some rowdy guys, I hang out with rowdy guys, and I can see my friends doing this. They can't get him in to see Jesus or be around Jesus. So they tore the roof off. They tore the roof off of somebody's property, and they lowered their homeboy down to see Jesus. You know? That's how much faith they had to do this. And you know what the paralyzed guy did? Nothing. He laid up. He laid up. And if it was me on that stretcher and my homeboys were doing that, I'd be griping the whole time. Hey man, hey, be easy. You know, I'd be griping the whole time, talking trash. And I'm pretty sure he was too, because he was comfortable where he was at. He didn't expect anything. And the craziest part is, the guy was laid up on a stretcher for years, but he was really good at relationships. I guess when you can't do nothing else, you learn how to be forgiving and talk very well and be able to be there whenever they need to be there. You get what I'm saying? He was really good at relationships. And then you hear about the woman at the well. She was terrible at relationships. She's very terrible at them. You know, and we like to think that she was a lady of the night. It never says that. It never says that. All it says is she's had 5 husbands, and the one that she's with now ain't even her husband. How do you think those fights were in that house? Would you like to be a fly on the wall in that house? From a relationship to relationship to relationship? Me personally, as a man that wants to do everything himself, I've been that chick. It's not her that just destroys relationships. I've destroyed a bunch of relationships in my life. I'm no good at them. And it's crazy is because the thing that we focus on that, and we think of this lady that's no good at relationships, but a lot of us don't really take a look at what Jesus says. Go back and tell them. And she went back and told them. There's a man out there on the hill, and he told me everything about who I am. He told me everything in my life. We forget that part. And you know what? Even though that she was terrible at relationships, even though that she was shunned and had to go get water in the middle of the day, now that we're in a good position, how many of y'all would go get y'all's water yesterday in the middle of the day? I wouldn't. I just walked from my house to the refuge to a storage building, and I'm soaked. I'm drenched. And they didn't even have air conditioner. It was just normal. But in order for her not to catch any flack, she said, I'm just going to do this in the middle of the day. I'd rather sweat it out than have to listen to these people. And Jesus met her right where she was at and said, I know everything. I know it all. And most of the time, that's how we live our life, is we realize we try to think that we're getting away with something. And Jesus knows already. He knows. Let's talk about the prodigal sons. In that story, the dad is representing God. It's God in the story, and it has 2 children. One's like me and you, goes off and squanders everything. The other one's like TK and Brent, that are steadfast, just do what's in front of them. And then you got me coming in. And the thing is that I don't realize some of the times is whenever that kid, that ungrateful kid that I have been, asked his dad for his inheritance, and he wanted his dad dead. Because the only way that he can get his inheritance is if his dad's dead. That was the culture. They didn't just say, all right, I'm 13 now. Give it to me. Well, that's when the bar mitzvah came on. That's when they're a man. All right? But he wanted his dad dead, so he goes off. His dad gives it to him. Isn't that what that God does to us? He just gives it to us. And we think it's the greatest blessing of all. And then we get it, and then we pray that he takes it away. You know, I've been that kid, you know. And then I've been in TK and Brent's shoes too, where I'm steadfast, where I'm doing everything that is asked for me, and I want the most. And God's saying, well, for what? You're doing the most. For what? You're doing what you're supposed to do. We're supposed to throw a party because you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. But the relationship between that is God forgave his son for asking for the inheritance. Already forgave him. God, the Father, let him go do what he wanted to do, didn't chase him down, didn't try to stop him. And the kid went out and squandered everything and comes back, right? And his dad runs to him. And there, in the Greek word, I'm not going to murder it, but the expression in the dad's stomach was like a bowel movement. You know, when you go to the doctor and you're trying to get a scope done, and they give you this, hey, drink this in the next 12 hours, and it moves your bowels. Well, that's the feeling that the father got when his son was up on the hill. He was so joyed that his son was lost. Now he is found. And that's what happens to us. But we forget those things. We get real blasé about it. So I'm going to get to my point. All right? And you think that's fixing to be over, but I can drag this on pretty good. So we notice at the story where Jesus is asking Peter if he loved him. And we say, man, yeah, he loved him. He said it 3 times that he loved him. Why is that so significant? Well, Peter, at the beginning, when Jesus told him, follow me, this exact same thing happened. He didn't see who it was, but they knew the words. They knew the words that happened to them. He knew that whenever Jesus called them to do his work, what happened at first. It's funny. It's not really funny, but it's exciting to know that the first interaction that Peter had with Jesus is the same as the last interaction he had with Jesus. I think it's pretty neat. But here's the thing. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna set the scene for you in this. The reason why I find myself in this is because I've been this kid. I've been Peter. All right? Peter has been with Jesus for 3.5 years. Learning all the things, hearing all the things, seeing all the things, touching all the things. And he still can't live up to the relationship. All right? So he's seen on the mountain of transfiguration of who Jesus really is. And that was kind of blasé for him too, because he went to sleep. When he was supposed to be catching guard while Jesus talked to the Father in the garden, he went to sleep. And then whenever they came, let me back up a little bit. He told Peter that Peter was going to deny him. And as prideful and arrogant as I get, I can hear Peter's reaction. I can see his face. I can hear his tone. Nah, not me. Not me. You got it wrong, Lord. Not me. So they go to the garden. He falls asleep. They come into it and arrest him. Hot-headed Peter, first thing he does, cuts off the dude's ear. Don't take my homeboy. Don't take my homeboy. Don't just put your hands on my homeboy. And Jesus is like, nah, this is how it's supposed to happen. All right? So as they're taking Jesus to court, they got to walk everywhere, right? Well, Peter, as the dope fiend Peter is, he's behind them. Every time he stops, they stop. And then they settle in. They're going to rest for the evening. And Peter kind of just creeps up in there, and he's just watching them. And the way I see it is Peter and Jesus are sitting across from each other. Jesus chilling, knows what's fixing to happen, accepts it fully. He's already asked, let this cup pass from me. And his father said no. So he already came to terms with it. He already accepted his destiny. And Peter's sitting over there just wanting to know what's happening. And this little girl nudges him and says, aren't you with him? No. A little bit of time later, it goes on, and she asks him again, I swear the other day, I seen you with that cat right there. Jesus sitting there looking at Peter. Peter's looking at Jesus and says, nope. Nope. I don't know him. I'm not with that guy. I'm just here trying to get some fish, and trying to get some light, trying to get some rest. Okay. So just imagine that feeling. Imagine that feeling that you're sitting there looking at your mentor, your best friend, your homeboy. Just looking at him. You already denied him twice, and he's looking at you. I don't know if y'all ever been put yourself in a situation where you have to betray your parent, betray your homeboy, betray your wife, your girlfriend, whatever. And you're looking them deep in their eyes. And all these things are flashing in the back of your head. Of the things, the good times you had, the bad times you had, the things that get you through. Do you know that whenever you're going through good times with somebody and bad times with somebody, your brain is dropping chemicals where you feel a bond with this person? It's a bond. And whenever that relationship is severed, gone away, all the betrayal and all the lies come out to the top, you feel so betrayed, it's like suicide. Your brain can't tell the difference if you're happy or you're joyous. It's just feeling that something is not right. So as Peter is looking at Jesus, just think about all the things that are going through his head. And then next thing you know, little girl comes back and says, hey, I know for a fact you're with that guy. I know it. You think these little kids are being quiet about it? We know kids around here. They're not quiet. Yeah, just imagine Sagan running around here. I know it's you. I seen you. From up here, pointing you out. And he's looking at Jesus. Jesus is looking at Peter. And Peter says, nope. That ain't me. I don't know him. And next thing you know, that's the third time. And you see all the things and you hear all the things that happened to Jesus from the time from that moment till the time he died on the cross. And his disciples scattered. All the work that he put in, all the things that he did, they scattered. And then they meet up in the upper room. They meet up. They all back together again. And Jesus reveals himself. Says, look at it. Thomas, look at that. That's real. Touch it. Don't touch it. Y'all didn't see that, did y'all? But he reveals himself. Where do you think Peter was at in the upper room? I know where I would be at. I'd be in the corner. I'd probably be hiding behind this deal right here because I just betrayed my homeboy. The guy that gave me life, made me born again, renewed. But I let myself get in the way of that. I'm pretty sure. Then after Jesus reveals himself and they leave the upper room, what does Peter tell his homeboys he's doing? I'm going fishing. Many times I Y'all don't get to see it, but I get to see it a lot. Many times I see people get in recovery, start walking with Christ, and their expectations, their fantasies are not fulfilled. And they go back to fishing. They're not doing anything special, but we believe that we're doing something special. This Jesus thing doesn't work out. This relationship doesn't look like I think it should look. I'm going fishing. I've already denied him. It doesn't work. So I'm going back to doing what I used to do. And Jesus meets him right where he's at. Jesus meets him right where he's at and starts the whole process over. Jesus redefines the relationship, shows him what true grace and forgiveness is. And we get to the point where Jesus is asking Peter, do you love me? And Peter's responding, yes, you know I love you. Well, the word that he's using, I'm going to murder this, Brent, but let me make it. The term that he's using is philia, a brotherly love. And Jesus is looking for agape, unconditional love. I want unconditional. No matter what, you don't lose sight again. And Peter knows his limitations. And he says, you're my homeboy, man. You're my homeboy. And Jesus says to Peter, do you love me? I need agape, Peter. And Peter says, I can't do that, dude. I can't do that. All I can do is be a homeboy. That's all I can do is be a homeboy. And you're like, okay, that's good enough. Jesus knew that the weight that was on Peter. Jesus knows the weight that's on you. But in the Beatitudes, we get tired of reading the Beatitudes. We get so confused. But at the end of it, we always skip over it. Blessed are you that get persecuted because of me. Blessed are you that are persecuted because of me. He knows he's setting us up right from the jump that it's going to get hard. Things are not going to go our way. This relationship isn't going to go the way you need it to go. This relationship's going to go the way I need it to go. I don't need the old Kendal. I need the new Kendal. I need a new one because what I can do with that one and his story can help millions. Maybe thousands, maybe hundreds, maybe 2. Maybe. I'm good for 2 right now. 2's pretty good. 2's pretty good. So what I'm bringing up to you right here is that not only does the 12 steps talk about relationships, but Jesus talks about the greatest relationship of all. Matt said it a couple years ago, and I grasped onto it. I try to make it mine. Good. I steal it good. I preach it good. And Matt said a few years ago that when it's talking about the kingdom of heaven, it's talking about the relationship. How good is your relationship? If your relationship is good, if you stay in the Word, you practice the Word, then it seems like life gets better, don't it? Well, that's what the Refuge is about. The Refuge is about relationships. Well, none of us are good at them. You know? What is one thing that you must give to God today? And I'm going to tell you, for me personally, and it may be for y'all, is your relationships. You know? That's what it's about. I have to give it all to Jesus. I have to give it all to God. And that's what I preach at the Refuge. Because I'm in control over nothing. And my pride and ego tells me if I want to be in control, then I'm playing God again. How often do you play God in your relationships? I'm not the one to try to call you out on it. I'm just saying I do it, and I mess it up. But I've been the guy on the stretcher. I've been that guy. I have some people in my life that has has carried my stretcher for many, many, many years. And then I came to the refuge, and it took the weight off of them. And that's relationships in this church. Took the weight off of them. I've been at the woman at the well. I've been there several times. Some days I'm still there. I've been the prodigal son. I've been the son that's always stayed. I've been the father to where I have to make decisions on what that looks like. Every day I find myself in Peter. The things that he does, the things that he says, the actions that he does. When I read Jesus' story, the people that are around him, I find myself in those people. So whenever you go out from here today, not just this week, not just next week, pay attention to those relationships, because we have a part in those relationships, and sometimes we don't have a part in those relationships. Y'all can come up here. I'm finishing up. I hope I didn't waste y'all's time this morning, but I just know this, that I'm terrible at relationships, and that God calls those, and then he equips them.